Today we have a live coaching call where I asked some of the members in the Hui Deal Pipeline Club if they were willing to come on the camera and do a little coaching session. Today on the line, I got Matt. How's it going, Matt?
Lane, how you doing?
Good, good, good. So this is also going to be done in video form. And if you guys want to follow along, you can check out the YouTube channel or just check out the website for this, the show notes for this podcast if you're listening in audio form. But I have displayed on here your personal financial sheet, Matt. And, kind of just so we get a sense of, what your situation is. Kind of how did you first find Simple Passive Cash Flow? Just kind of how did you find us?
Uh, Probably started listening to Wealth Formula, heard you on there, and then got redirected and started in the beginning. And that was basically when you got started. So it's been, what, year and a half, 2 years now? So just
Yeah, it's been a
going
while.
kind of same mental pathways. So just been following along since.
Right, right. And so you're kind of more of on the younger side. I mean, you're not, how old are you generally right now?
Uh, 33.
Okay, okay. So you're kind of another working professional. You're a doctor, and if you kind of wanted to kind of tell us like what you were up to for the last decade after undergraduate, take a step to present day.
Uh, well, most of that has been as a slave for the medical. I only finished my training a year and a half ago now. So went straight from undergrad to medical school, and that was 4 years in Atlanta. And from there, did a year of internship in Tampa, Florida. From there, did 4 years of residency training in radiology in Oklahoma City. And then after that, I did a year of fellowship in orthopedic radiology in South Carolina, and now moved back home to South Florida, and I've been working as a attending physician for a year and a half now.
Right. And it's just so some people can follow along, everybody thinks doctors make a lot of money, but in residency, I mean, you're not making too much, right? I mean,
No, in my internship, I mean, it depends on the state and the program. Internship was 40 grand for the year, and you're working close to 80 hours a week. And then probably when I started residency, was a different program entirely. So maybe you got bumped up to 45, and by the time you're done with into my fellowship year, so in your sixth year of postgraduate training, it was maybe 55, 58,000, somewhere in there.
right. So right now I got your personal financial sheet filled up here on the screen. Just kind of going through the salaries and a big part of it is do you have any student loans or any of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, quite just a little bit. I think probably started at about $250,000, uh, and wanted to start a repayment right after uh, medical school to capitalize the interest, you know, before it really started accruing. So, I mean, at the beginning, I was, only paying a few $100 a month, based off of, they based off income. So, the interest was growing more than I was paying. So I finally refinanced it about a year and a half ago. So now I pay $2,600 a month, and my loan balance is still over 225,000.
All right. And so in residency, do you have to pay it off then, or is that when you're in
You
repayment?
don't have to. You can go into deferment based off of that, per hourly, wage you're making below minimum wage. So you can push it off, but if you don't make those payments, then every time more interest accrues, when you do go into repayment, it capitalizes. So then you're paying, interest off of a higher amount, and I didn't want to do that. So I went into payment and just did an income-based repayment type plan. So even though I owed so much money, they were only forcing me to pay, like $300 a month. So I did that for, the 6 years, and then after you make a certain amount of money, they no longer allow you to do that.
Right, right. So the use is the cash here on this right side of this column. I'm trying to just break this down. So are you lumping your student loans into the living expenses here?
Uh, I
The
Let me see.
13,000 a month.
Yeah, I don't. If it's yeah. So if you look up in the function, the 2652, that's the student loan.
Oh, okay, okay. Oh,
And actually 189 is as well, but that's from the 2652 is on the uh, private side, and the 189 is what's still left with the government.
okay, okay. So almost 3 grand for almost $250,000 of debt. That's kind of the repayment.
Yeah, and
Okay.
that's a 10-year repayment plan.
10-year payment. Okay, that's why it's so large. Okay. I just don't have a good sense of those kinds of numbers. So thanks for that.
Yeah.
So essentially you're kind of burning on about $10,000 a month on living expenses, which would be crazy to most people. But the fact that you're making 35,000 a month is what's making this engine go.
Yep. And I mean, I have a fiance, and I basically pay her expenses, so that's part of it. And I think a lot
Yeah,
of it.
I hear those are expensive too. Yeah.
Yeah, you're learning for yourself, huh?
Yeah. So also, but at the end of the day, the important number is, you sum up all your cash here, and you've also got some real estate income there. So that's
Mm,
awesome. So that's helping out a lot. And then you're taking all your expenses, and at the end of the day, your net cash flow is about 15,000 a month. So that's
yeah.
awesome, right? 100, it's like 150. Even if you go on a super large vacation, right, you should be able to put away 100 grand a year.
Yeah, actually, the living expenses, I include 1,000 of that a month for vacation. So
Awesome,
the
awesome.
15,000 is what I plan to invest every year.
Yeah. So I mean, I think this is the kind of the fault that a lot of your peers fall in, right? You're making so much money and you kind of just blow cash on random stuff. Are you?
Yeah,
I mean, I know how you are kind of personally a little bit. That's not how you are, but how do you kind of, you want to kind of talk to a little bit about keeping up with the Dr. Joneses?
yeah. I mean, it's tough. Part of it was because I kind of got into personal finance when I was still in residency, knowing that it's a common mistake that a lot of doctors make. You know, you go from a very small income and you're having to, balance and budget to all of a sudden you're making a lot. It's easy to just spend it. So I kind of started planning before I even had the money. That way I would just kind of be ahead. And so I bought a rental property before I even graduated my residency.
Right. And that was just like a single family home.
Yeah, it was a duplex. I mean, my residency was in Oklahoma City, so it's a pretty decent cash flow market. So I bought a duplex there, uh, like pretty cheap, and rehabbed it and got it cash flowing, and still owning it today.
Yeah. So the down payment for that, how did you get your hands on that?
Just cash savings. I mean, it wasn't a significant down payment. I mean, it was, the property was purchased for 57,000, and I also had a construction loan on top of it. So I put the 20% down. So it was maybe with closing costs 25 grand, and that was just money that I had been saving, not spending. I mean, part of the thing is when you're in residency, you're working 80 hours a week, especially when you live in Oklahoma City. I'm from South Florida, big city, and nothing really in Oklahoma City entices me that much to
Right.
be. So can't be traveling. So really, it's almost forced savings because you're studying and in the hospital all the time. So
All right.
after 4 or 5 years, I had the 25 grand to be able to put down.
Cool. I think that's really good insight for, a lot of doctors are serving undergrad. and get this personal finance blog, and kind of the same thing like you're saying. They're looking at a way to get started, and there you go. That's kind of just proven that correct. And, that's given him a leg up. That's,
Yeah.
although he's making 35,000 a month, that's 5 grand is directly coming from that. And more importantly, you're already sort of experienced in this game, that you can kind of take $150,000 and put it into much more efficient investments, as
Yeah.
opposed to just starting with a turnkey rental where you are, or, at this point. But so kind of talk to us like where you are at today. What's the game plan for investing now?
So, man, I'm trying to somewhat stay diversified in terms of where I'm putting money. I don't really put much into, if any, into the stock market. I mean, just stuff I had when I had, a 401k when I was a state employee. Uh, so I still had that, moved some of it into a self-directed Roth, and had put that into a syndication once I was accredited. And then, for the others, I mean, I'm kind of doing, still trying to stay on the residential side of housing, just because I think it does afford some different opportunities than syndications. And then, so maybe focusing on buying one house per year, basically as a turnkey, and the rest of it is going to syndication models. I also am like currently living in a triplex that I bought and renting out the other 2 units. So that was kind of a built-in income, really, I guess, more saving expenses. Also, so I'm currently looking to move out of this triplex and buy another one and do the same thing again.
Yeah.
It definitely gives me a leg up on, some of my other friends that are physicians that are, you know, living in $1 million houses, and they're paying 6 grand a month in their mortgage, and my mortgage is still similarly high, but my after expenses income, and I'm paying $1,500 a month.
Right. Right. So I think academically, I mean, you're making over 100 grand in savings in the bank every year. Technically, you should be just straight up passive investor in syndications. Let's talk a little bit about like what's driving you to kind of be more on the active side. Is it more of like something, looking for something to do, or?
Yeah, I think some of it's yeah, ego related, just in terms of having the control of some things, and yeah, just like some a little personal satisfaction of accomplishing something, and striving to do something. Uh, and then I do think that there is more, I guess, in a certain scheme, wealth to be created that way. Or also, like, forced savings plans made it less efficient money, but at the same time, maybe a little more stable. If say I keep an asset that's a single family home, I can still kind of count on that for 30 years, whereas the syndications, for the most part, they're being sold for 5 years. So I kind of want something to offset, hey, in 4 or 5 years, if there's less deals available, I don't know what there is going to be, that I'll still have a strategy that I'll be able to access.
Right, right. And a part of this too is you started from the ground up, right? You got a single family home, so you kind of know how this works. So that's
Yeah, I mean,
a
I
good
would say
thing.
I never managed it, but it was definitely a different experience staying on top of a contractor and doing a rehab. So it was a good experience. I mean, by no means know exactly what I'm doing still. It's where
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
But in terms of taxes, I mean, I think you're probably a little bit better off on the syndication side with the cost segs that can be done. You kind of mentioned taxes. What are you kind of thinking there?
Yeah, so I haven't been in, like, I haven't been in the syndications long enough to get a K1 from it to know exactly what it would do for me. I know that my income from this distributions is going to be less than the taxable, but so far, like, that year that I bought the duplex, and I filed, the following year, I mean, I got a significant amount of my taxes taken from my paycheck back. So that was kind of eye opening, in just the sense that, if you can do one of those per year, that's a significant amount to put back in your pocket. I didn't really have that in 2018, but I did invest in the conservation easement. So still waiting to see how that's going to turn out. But yeah, I mean, a lot of my strategy kind of leans on taxes just because, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm unemployed, so I definitely pay my worth.
Yeah, and I think this is exactly how I'm kind of doing things. Like you read it in a book, people tell you things, but you really got to just dip your foot in, go into syndication, and say, well, I invested 100 grand.
Yeah,
Here how it actually happens on the K1, and you get the K1, you see the depreciation and the gains, and you give it to your CPA, and the CPA does it. And I'm finally getting that. My just got my 2017 done, and actually understanding in real practical sense how the passive losses get brought on onto lowering your
yeah.
income. And I think it's just
Right now I have so much losses rolled over uh,
right,
that I really need to build up the passive income for it to be utilized even.
right. And part of that is having a spouse that's a real estate professional, right? So it doesn't you can take those losses.
Yeah, I've talked about that, but she's still focused on it at the moment.
Yeah. So that's a big one, man. I mean, um, I get it. A lot of times they say they're very passionate about something, but talk to your CPA about how you can make this happen. I mean, maybe they just work half time or something.
Yeah, actually, the CPA actually brought it up to me. I mean, I had heard about it, and my fiance, she's a hairstylist, so she wants to open up a salon, which I think would be beneficial for me to having person like a business, and we can run expenses through a business rather than through me. And then hopefully, eventually, she's not really needing to manage it, and at that point, she would kind of transition into that role of being a real estate professional. But she's focused on opening up the salon first, which got to support
Right.
some things.
Right. And that'll probably take at least 5 years, I'm guessing, before she transitions to being a more, the four quadrants, right? I guess that'd be the investor, or not the business owner, from going from the business to investor quadrant. The,
Yeah, and at the same time, I make enough money to where she doesn't need to make six figures off of it for it to be successful or for it to accomplish what we need. I mean, if it just pays for our expenses, and at the end of the day, she pays her employees,
right.
and we get to write off some passive income from other areas. To me, that's a win. And then if she makes more off of that, then that's just a bonus.
Yeah. And I think you got to do the calculation here. I think you guys make so much money that for most people, yeah, running the money through the business would make sense. But I think you make so much money that it's better off that she's a real estate professional and you getting to use all the passive losses. So I mean,
Yeah,
something to think about. Talk to your CPA. Talk to her about is maybe thinking about if she is going to start on this entrepreneur venture, maybe on paper the hours that she shows doing that isn't high. You
yeah,
know, so it's something to play around with. I mean, I kind of do what I do on the side, right? I mean, in terms of hours
yeah,
wise. So I think it's worth it to, I mean, man, if you were able to take all those passive losses, this year right away, I mean, that's huge. That's huge savings for you guys.
yeah. And then especially to not have to rely on like a conservation easement to get the cash back, or not have a cap at 50% of the AGI. Just don't have to worry about getting the money back. You can just save it in the.
Right. And for, for not for you, Matt, since you already know these things, but for the listener, what we're talking about is the conservation easement, which is like a charitable donation, which is sort of like like kind of a pill to lower your taxes right away by lowering your taxable income. What that thing is basically you're making a charitable contribution to the world in a way where you're giving a piece of land at the highest market value, which is very, very high since you're always taking that highest value, and you're getting this huge, almost like a $1 to $5, right? Um,
Yeah, the one I did this year was just over, I think it was 5.5 to 1.
Right. Yeah. So what a lot of people who have high incomes or another this is, think of it like a drug, right? You're trying to cure different symptoms. So high AGI can be caused by either a high income, or maybe you finally woke up to this stuff when you're going to take your 401k out and start investing it, but it's going to blow up your AGI. A conservation easement is one of those ways to kind of mitigate that in a 1 or 2 year time span. But it's a shot in the arm, right? It's not a long-term fix. Is the problem. And that's
Yeah,
that's
no, totally
where that's where some of these more longer term deals actually are growing equity instead of, I mean, I call them kind of tax gimmicks in a way.
yeah, it's really just a way to get more cash to push into something else.
Right, right. So that's the thing, right? Like you're making 100 grand, you're saving 100 grand at least a year. The way I see it is you've got a couple of silver bullets, a couple of 50 grand chunks that you can put into a couple of good deals every year. Or like how you said, you're putting half into your own stuff, half into syndications, LP. I like that. I mean, the whole idea of, I mean, you're definitely one of those type A guys, right, man? Like you still, you're making all this money at as your doctor job, and you like to do the stuff on your side, for sure.
Yeah, and you had a post. It might have been, it's pretty a while ago, and it was related to uh, kind of self improvement, and it's kind of what are you doing it for? And it's not about the outcome; it's about the what your experience on the way. So if I'm just investing in just syndications, I don't know, I just feel less valuable. So again, it's probably ego driven, but you got to have something to strive for, or else what are you doing?
Yeah, yeah. And you and I are kind of the same age, right? We don't have kids quite yet, or I don't think you do.
Nope.
So that kind of plays a part. I think when that happens, from what I see from other people, the game definitely changes. So the whole thing is to get as high and as far as you can now, and then reevaluate every year, right? That's why you do your goals
Yeah.
every year. I mean, so how? Tell me a little bit about like work. I mean, how stressful it is? Is it something that you want to do long term?
Uh, it's when you're at work, I mean, it's still a job. Um, but I picked a field that I knew had a good lifestyle component. So I probably average 38 to 40 hours a week. I work 1 weekend a month. I get 8 weeks of vacation a year. So I mean, it's the stress level is not very high. I don't have to take my work home with me. There's no being on call. I either work or I don't work. Uh, so, but when you are working, we see, a regular physician, they're spending time with patients. They see maybe 20, 30 a day. But when I'm looking at images and with technology, there's just a lot more turnover of patients. So, I'm seeing over 100 patients a day. So it's busy. It's a lot of work, a lot of, mental stress and focus on those hours. But outside of those hours, it's pretty forgiving, where it makes up for it. Not, I don't by any means not like going to work, but it'd be nice to just choose to say, hey, I only want to work, 3 days a week. So my goal is to be able to do that around in 15 years or so.
All right. So what's your kind of 1 to 3 year game plan in terms of like at your job? Are you gonna cut hours or any short term plan
Uh,
there?
no, I kind of always looking for a better situation, not necessarily leave my job, but uh, I got another recent job offer where it was kind of a little more lenient. So, I mean, it's something nice to consider, just less hours working, no weekends, more vacation time. So, if something like that comes along, and I'm kind of keep that in my mind. Uh, but I mean, I don't mind working. Obviously, when you
Yeah,
go,
life's good. Generally life's good, right?
yeah.
Can't complain.
I mean, my 8 weeks off. I mean, it's tough to complain about 8 weeks off.
Right.
A little stringent in terms of how you can take them, but still plenty to plan for. I mean, at this point, yes, I make a lot, but if I were to take every week off and had a big vacation, I mean, that would seriously be dipping into what I'm saving. So no, it's just different budgeting at a different level, and just make sure that I still stay within my what I really need. But I mean, I'm more focused, and I get more enjoyment probably out of growing uh, the funds that I have. Just that way, you know, the more passive I can be with my income, the less I
Yeah.
really have to worry about those things, because at a certain point.
Right. I think you're kind of like me. We get the Scrooge McDuck syndrome where you just kind of like to watch the numbers on your online bank account go up. And it's kind of like keeping
It is
track.
nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, something to keep in mind, like a lot of like the doctors I work with, like they usually cut back their hours 3 days a week, 2 days a week. Um, so that's something if that's what you choose to do, right? I mean, life will probably change here and there, but that's a common thing I see. Um,
Yeah, from what I've experienced, a lot of physicians will take their high-paying private practice job, like I'm private practice now, and then when they're ready to scale back, they switch to academic medicine. So you're working at a larger tertiary care center, and there it's much more lenient, and you have more flexibility in doing whatever you want to do.
right. Because right now, I mean, if I just do the quick math, your passive is 5,000, your monthly is 35,000. I mean, you've almost got 20% of it. I mean, you're still on that road there to out of the rat race, but you eventually get there, and it's just two bigger deals a year. But let's talk about like a little bit on like where is this all going? You mentioned your fiance's got that business. What kind of gets you more excited? Helping her do that thing and see where you can kind of plug the holes, or um, kind of keep doing your smaller single family home burrs and stuff like that, which would get you
Yeah, no, I
going.
think the business more than the actual real estate itself is more enticing to me. I mean, I think you know I do or help her with her business plan, and I think it'd be great to, part of the business plan would be to have it franchised, and then then you really are getting into that B
Yeah,
quadrant.
right.
I mean,
And
I do like.
a book recommendation I always kind of tell people to read is Michael Gerber's E Myth. If you've read that, but
I've read E-Myth. I do have it. I've done 4 Hour Work Week, which from what I understand is the same realm.
yeah. So E Myth, the main concepts are there's like three big people of a business, right? You get the visionary, which is the entrepreneur. You have the the manager. This is the kind of the person operation to get stuff done, and then you have the technician. So like in a bakery, the technician would be obviously the baker, right? And unfortunately, why a lot of businesses fails because they suck at being a manager and then the marketing visionary type. Um, I'm suspecting your fiance is more the technician. Is that right?
Yeah,
Like she does the hair, right?
yeah. I'll probably be the visionary of the endeavor. Yeah, I mean, she's definitely a technician. I mean, that's what she does now, and she doesn't want to stop doing that. But I think she understands the value of potentially being able to step away and just do it when she wants to do it.
Right, right. So I mean, I think that's if I'm kind of finding. I mean, the first question was always like, well, what kind of gets you going, and to break it down to like one of those three pieces, and for you to kind of plug yourself into that whole side. I
Mm.
mean, at the end of the day, it kind of gets your juices flowing, right? If you can kind of play that higher visionary, playing the marketing side. I mean, I don't know if you're the one who came up with use the F word, the franchise word, if it's her. I'm
Well, it was
guessing it's
definitely.
probably guessing it's you.
Yeah, it was definitely.
Yeah, so that makes total sense. But you're probably I'm more of the visionary type too, but the problem with that is like, getting stuff done, the manager type, you get all these good ideas, but just so little time, right? And you got to go play doctor too,
Yeah.
and flip that house that you got open up too. Then
Well, I mean, that part is, significantly less. And I haven't, besides the living in kind of house hack, for the most part, I see it more as a turnkey type of model.
yeah, yeah. But I think for you guys, it's you have the freedom to kind of do what you want, but like, spend your time in the ways that you want, right? And what I'm hearing from you is that you want to spend your time more on this business, kind of on the creative side. And so whatever you say no to, where there is burrs or flips, you put more time into what you do, right? And that's what we're trying to arbitrage here. Doing things because you like it.
Yeah. And I mean, I still try to think about, the end goal, and it would be nice to just sit back and just manage the business, and not really, I don't really got to go worry about dealing with her clients, her customers, her employees. It's kind of what she gets to do. I just kind of get to help out and make sure it's all in the right trajectory. And then ultimately, even if I keep working until I'm 60, whether that happens or not, it's just, right now she works and I get vacation, and I really can't do anything because she can't take vacation as much as I do. So it's really getting to that point where, one, I don't have to work but 3 days a week, or whenever I have that vacation, it doesn't really, not really worrying about budgeting the vacation, and it just becomes doing experience to get the experience, and then she could do whatever she chooses to do because she's in charge.
Right. And I think that's super important when you just recognize there, right? Problems are things that way that we should design our solution. So that for you guys, it's the freedom to go wherever. And this may clash with her, what her vision is, right? She may want to be that technician, and yeah, Matt's doing all this stuff where he's franchising this or that, right? And the internet and all this other stuff. But her vision may be that she just wants to be that celebrity hairstylist, amongst this whole thing. And that may clash with your vision of, hey, we just let's head off somewhere for 2 months, right? So that's
Yeah.
something that kind of has to be discussed.
Yeah. And I would say she's not that point now, but I mean, you never know what happens when someone starts having success. Things change.
Yeah, yeah. But it's always easier to go that way than the other way, where someone just wants to eat bonbons and watch HGTV all day long, right?
At this point, it's been a gentle push more and more towards it. So she's definitely pushing into her out of her comfort zone. But I think the more and more she sees what it is, the more and more she's interested. So that's good.
Yeah, it's kind of like Crazy Rich Asians, right? How they got that girl who's just, oh, this is first class, I can do all this stuff. I don't just have to work all the time.
Yep.
So yeah, was there anything that specifically I can kind of help you out with? Anything you wanted to kind of bounce ideas off?
Yeah. I mean, for the most part, I mean, I just, I get that shiny ball syndrome, where there are lots of different ways to go. I mean, it's nice. Like, I make a lot of money, but I mean, if I were had for as many options I see as things to do with it, I mean, it doesn't seem like it's enough. And that's not for buying things, doing things. That's just for investing things. I mean, I like taking my vacations, but for whatever reason, I get more excited about investing in things. So it's really just about, how much do I want to do set aside for this? I mean, I currently have budgeted out about $125,000 a year for investment purposes. And that's not necessarily just something that returns me money. You know, if maybe 10, 15, 20,000 of it may be on personal development, doing a mastermind or taking some sort of course, or just, overall personal improvement. To me, that's, I have that in my investment money. And then that might leave another, 100 to 115,000 a year to, am I going to buy, one turnkey house, and that's going to, cost me 25 to 30 grand. And then, I'm going to go into one syndication deal. Am I going to go into two syndications? Am I switching up who am I going to syndicate with? Or am I going to go into some sort of syndication at a fund? Or it's really just about the allocation. And I mean, there's no right answer, but it's, I guess, guidance in terms of people who have thought about more insight into, yes, this is a good strategy, or those kind of things.
Right. And I think if I recall, you were always kind of looking at doing all kinds of things. Like you scoot around with like the land investing thing and all these like intro boot camp stuff, right? Like you're a tinkerer in a way.
I mean, I would say I hear those things and I get an interest, but in specifically attempting to do any of them, I haven't really done any of those. But you know, there's like the whole cash flowing the stock market. Forget the guy's name, but one of the rich dad advisors, and just being able to do that, just something as something aside to bring in monthly cash flow. I've thought about doing that, or doing a mentorship and really getting into syndications more, or if maybe not even syndications. Maybe I'm just trying to take down something with myself. But I guess I just not sure that it's the best thing that I should be doing, or the best should I be using my time to where I've kind of not done them yet, but been close.
Right. I mean, you're making 35,000 a month. If you were to carve off half a day to do those other pursuits, right? That's less money that comes in, and that's pretty much what it comes down to.
I wouldn't really have that option. I mean, like I'm a employed physician in like just a massive group, so it's really I have the time. I get my schedule per weekend. I got to show up. There's really no taking a day off. My time off comes in week increments, and I got to make them like 6 months ahead of time. And all my weekend work shifts are made 6 months ahead of time. So it's really, I would know what kind of where my schedule is going to be, and I would just have to be doing it outside of that.
Right. I think, and kind of in parting thoughts here, you're going to be all right. You're not going to starve to death by any means. But I think you're kind of in a good position. I think you're still in that searching stage, and I'm like this too. You're always trying to try different things, but you're still investing, right? Putting away the $100,000 a year in a couple deals, a few deals every year, but always kind of tinkering, whether it is like the hairstylist business or the fix and flips. What is it that really gets you going, and something that's fun? Your hobby, I guess. That's kind of what you should
Yeah.
be going with that lens on. And then something will resonate, I believe, maybe next year or two.
Yeah. I'm just, I got to work on my patience. I get, enough money saved up, and I want to go find a place for it to go right then and there. Or I got, 50 grand in savings, and I'm like, I don't want it sitting in my savings account. I want to put it in, AHP and let it sit there until I find something. But then I know something could be on the horizon, relatively shortly. Like I'll have X amount of money that I know I'm able to expend in March. So when am I going to move it over to AHP for a couple months?
Yeah, and kind of a lot of people are sort of like Matt in terms of like kind of constant spinning top, right? You're always you're going to be all right.
Yeah.
And I liked how you said, you do set aside money for vacations. So that's a great thing. And then you do take all your vacations, and just kind of celebrating it too. I think that's something that you should try and be mindful of too. What's something that you kind of want to buy in the next year once you've kind of your goal is a couple, placing that $100,000 somewhere. And once you've done that and kind of kept on moving the hairstylist thing forward and your fix and flips forward, I think that's a successful year. What are you going to go get for yourself? How are you going to up level your lifestyle? Any thoughts there?
No, I mean, I typically, I guess got everything budgeted out in terms of money. So I mean, I know kind of when I'm gonna buy something. I mean, I don't really buy stuff per se. I more use it on vacations, honestly,
Yeah.
to where I mean, if I'm gonna do something extra, it's gonna be an experience, not really a thing. But I would say, I mean, if there was something that were more physical, I mean, it'd probably be in the house realm, just in terms of, I live by the beach. I mean, ultimately, I would love to have a house on the beach, walking to the beach. So uh, once I hit my, comfort level for all my cash flows, and that might be something that I do.
Yeah. Well, I would say, try and find like an interim goal, maybe at the end of this year, right? Like in 1 year, you probably save more than what most people do in 5 to 10, or what, my investors do in like 5 to 10 years, so kind of, try build in rewards for yourself. I think that's the thing. Because you
I mean,
never know, when this is going to end.
I'm better about getting stuff for other people than myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So something to work on, something you'd be like, whoa, that's kind of, I mean, I know you're not a materialistic person, but maybe it's not even materials. It's another extra vacation or something just a little bit, you know, that kind of you remembered, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's my goal now is it's for it to be, trying to go to Thailand and Indonesia next year. So that upgrade might be like a first class ticket or something.
Yeah. Yeah. But cool. Yeah. I don't want you to keep constantly your nose to the grindstone. You have to come up for air every once in a while, and if not, you're gonna burn out.
Yeah, and not an uncommon process for physicians, but
Yeah. All right, Matt. Was there anything else? I think that was a good call.
yeah, no, I think that's it.
Yeah. So if you guys want to join our club, the Simple Passive Cash Flow Hui Deal Pipeline Club, go to simplepassivecashflow.com/Hui, and we've got the mastermind starting up, simplepassivecashflow.com/journey, and we'll talk to you later. Bye, guys.